So I want to hit you with some Lakers stuff and just see if you agree with me.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, first one. The Marcus Smart signing. I know he hasn't really done much over the past 2 years when he was with Washington and Memphis. 3 years ago, he was the Defensive Player of the Year in Boston. I love this signing, Mike, because of the contract. 2 years, $11 million. And I know this sounds ridiculous if you're listening and you're driving trucks, but $11 million over a 2-year period in the NBA is peanuts. It's not a lot of money. So they're taking a flyer on a former Defensive Player of the Year that is a point of attack defender in a Western Conference that is loaded with elite scoring guards, whether it be Steph Curry, Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox, John Morant, Anthony Edwards, Jamal Murray. I could go. Almost every team has an elite scoring guard. This gives J.J. Redick another body, maybe even a body to start on those guys that can use his fouls. I like the signing a lot. Am I overly optimistic about the Marcus Smart signing?
No, I don't think so. I would group it into the DeAndre Ayton signing as well. And think about what were the two biggest needs for the Lakers last season.
Center.
Obviously, center was the biggest one, and they were able to get Ayton, who is considerably more talented than anybody that you could have gotten for that price point. And you didn't have to give anything up to get him, right? No picks went out because of the buyout that he reached with Portland. So, and no players, you didn't have to shed any salary. You're able to bring him in, a player who's worth a lot more than the money that they did. Roll that same thing back for Marcus Smart. Now, the reason that you're able to do that, of course, is because the question marks you just hinted at it, John, with the games that he's missed. So in the 23-24 season, he played 61 games in Boston, and then the next year played 20 games in Memphis. The year after that, he was banged up. I think Washington, he played 15 games in Washington after only 19 in Memphis. So he's basically been dealing with these injuries now for the better part of the two seasons.
Right, but don't forget, Mike, and you and I have been around this for a long time, that in the case of Washington and Memphis, those were bad teams, at least then. They're both improving.
Well, Memphis wasn't. Memphis, remember, they gave up a lot to get him, and then he just got hurt. So, injuries, It was in Memphis. Washington was a bad team, for sure.
And so they at the end of the year, even if he could play, they didn't necessarily want him to play because they were trying to get a better lottery pick.
And so I asked a couple people, and I went back, I watched a couple clips. Basically, my question to some of the people in Washington was sort of like, all right, once you felt like he was relatively healthy, what did he look like? How close did he look to the player that we remember from Boston? And it's a little bit closer than you think. So there's some optimism there. He's still young. Remember, he was Julius Randle draft class.
Right.
He went
before him.
He went right before Randle to Boston. So he has been banged up.
I think he went 6 to Boston and Randle went 7 to the Lakers.
Yeah. So he's still on the I think he's either 30 or 31. And the type of player that he is, as you referred to, is exactly what the Lakers would want. Somebody that you can play next to Luka or next to Austin or even with both of them, since he can defend up. Smart is a strong guy.
Right.
He can defend. He can switch. He can hang in there on bigs. The question to me is how much can he go out and defend the smaller point guards as well?
Those guys I listed, yeah. De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards, those dudes.
And so what is his range, right? Is he 1 to 4? Is he 2 to 4? Is he 3 to 4? And then some centers he'll bang with. We need to kind of see that. And I think that the one thing that you do hear consistently about him, though, he is a winner. He is a competitor. He's a guy that's not scared to speak his mind in the locker room. He has leadership qualities like that. So he's going to give you his best. We just have to see what level of health that he has, what level of fitness that he has. And I think that, like DeAndre Ayton, they want to show that too.
Well,
right?
Mike, let's
they
be
have
honest.
Player options after the first year.
I was just going to say, let's be honest about both Smart and Ayton. They're playing for their financial futures, both of them.
Yeah.
They both have player options. So it is does Ayton have a player option? I think so.
Yeah. Same deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if they have a big year, let's say the Lakers get hot, go on a run, maybe make it back to the finals, have a big year, and they're a big part of it, they can basically reestablish their market value and make a ton of money. Now, if they don't have a big year or if they don't play, their next contract's going to be, some type of a minimum, like the full mid-level or the mini mid-level.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be under $5,000 a year or $5 million a year, which So they have a lot of incentive to play well. Okay, let me hit a couple other things here. Shake Milton, Jordan Goodwin, Trey Jemison, all out for now to make room for Ayton and Smart. Any of that surprise you? And any chance, in your opinion, that any of those three could come back around? Probably not Shake.
Well, I think the player that showed he had some value last year, and we saw this because J.J. Redick rewarded him with court time, and he deserved it, was Goodwin.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if some other team claimed Goodwin because he's a good player, and he's on a minimum contract, which is different from, for example, Ayton or Smart. Another team could have claimed them, but then they would have had to pay them the full boat. Same thing with Bradley Beal. You could have claimed him if you had $50 million in cap space.
Right.
Nobody was able to do so, but teams would be able to do it on a minimum guy. So I think that one probably hurt a little bit, but you just wind it back into the overall business of the offseason. And I think that for the Lakers to get Ayton plus Smart plus Shake LaRavia, who I think is a little bit better than people realize, and he's young, like LaRavia can play. I think that Laker fans will end up liking him. Like to do that and to not have to give up either
send anybody out,
connect,
right,
a first-round pick, a future, that is really, really good business. Now, does it make the Lakers a championship contender? I mean, that's a different conversation, one that I think the other thing people seem to be forgetting about is they have Luka Doncic on the roster. So that immediately
who
puts
appears to be getting into championship shape is the phrase that JJ used.
And we'll see how we'll get a chance to watch him with the Slovenian national team, which will be great. But my ceiling for the Lakers, I think, is higher than some people's who are forgetting that this same player who was 26 led the Mavs to the finals a year prior and led them to the conference finals with a different team a couple of years before that. So that's another discussion. But for the short term, your actual question was just about which one of those guys. I think not necessarily a surprise. They had to do it for money purposes, I believe, to get Smart in there. But Goodwin's the one that you're like, I wish they could find a way to get him back.
Are they done shaping the roster? They are right under the first apron. I think the first apron's at 195 million. I think they're at 194.9, or right in that neighborhood. You think they're done?
No, I mean, maybe for the short term, like for the summer in terms of ahead of training camp. But I think what Rob Pelinka, one of the things I think they've done really well, let's see what the team is like in the fall. And then if the opportunity arises to add to that team to make it better for the short term, for the long term, you do have the trade deadline and you have a lot of players in that kind of between $10 and $20 million range and now you didn't give up the assets that you had, whether it's a connect, whether it's the future first, you have those that you could put into a deal if you feel like, you know what, we're a little better than people thought we are. Are we Oklahoma City in the regular season? Not necessarily, but we're right there. We're right behind them. Let's make one move. Maybe we can win the title this year.
Yeah, what you just said reminded me of 2008, which was one of your first years with us. The Lakers, that's the offseason where Kobe demanded a trade. Dr. Buss saved it. They started the season, and Kobe was in a terrible mood, and they were better than people thought, and then they traded for Powell. And then everything took off.
Yeah.
And so that's if you're a Laker fan, what you're hoping for.